All right, the beauty of
Can you hear me?
virtual.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you now. Yep, thanks for coming in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, 2 mute buttons. Yeah, thanks so much. This is AJ Piplica, CEO at Hermeus. When we look at digital engineering, on the very high speed end of the spectrum, the ability to gather sufficient data to inform the models that we're using in our digital engineering enterprise is super, super critical. When we look at how much time we spent in air-breathing hypersonic flight in the history of humanity, it's something like 15 minutes, which really isn't enough to really know what's going on, understand the environment. So there's kind of a mix, I think, that we see between balancing developing hardware prototypes, flying them, gathering data, and then iterating very quickly based on that to inform kind of the future. And as we kind of scale up in terms of the scale of the vehicles that get built in this area. So yeah, and I think it's pretty clear from kind of I think what we've seen in the commercial space industry that if you're not leveraging every last piece of data that you're generating, whether it's on the government side, academic side, or industry side, to improve the quality and fidelity of your modeling and sim capabilities, yeah, things are going to get left behind pretty quickly. So yeah, we see that as a really important enabler to actually achieving, I think, some of the goals that we've laid out here for high-speed flight.
Fantastic. Thanks for that input. And again, I just want to remind everyone, if you look in chat here in this workshop, we've posted a virtual whiteboard link, and we're definitely interested in capturing your ideas relative to the vision for Vector Prime, how it's a compelling military as well as a compelling commercial topic. We're basically in competition for a big boatload of money to fuel this. So as much detail as you, as an interested party in this sector, can provide, again, look in chat. There's a link to a virtual whiteboard called Miro. That'll take you right to the frame. There's post-it notes alongside the frames. You can drag in your details and your ideas relative to 5 different topic areas that are outlined there. I don't want to take up a lot of time reviewing that, but we are definitely interested. And I see on the board, all of the other topics are really killing it in terms of post-its. So please join us. I'm trying to keep people muted here as best as possible. Joshua, what other areas of digital have a perspective? And any other people on the call that have that perspective do you want to bring in?
I do. So another company that we're engaged with currently is Exosonic. I see Norris Ty is on here. Wondering, so Exosonic is pursuing some really innovative things in quiet boom. Norris, I'd like your perspective on what are those key tripping hazards that in the path to commercial investment raining from the heavens. What are those key tripping hazards that I can help you with, or that we as Vector Prime can help all of the companies with? Over.
Yeah, for sure. And I've heard this mentioned a few times in the design workshop elements in prior calls, but I think the FAA's involvement, and specifically for us, NASA involvement with the X-39 program is critical to us, because we can develop aircraft products such as a low boom supersonic airliner, which is what Exosonic is doing. However, we need regulations to change, right? And the X-39 program is really imperative to that, because they're going to test a low boom supersonic flight demonstrator in the next 1 or 2 years, fly that over communities and develop a standard in which a low boom is acceptable by the public. And then once we understand that standard, then we can develop our airplane to meet that standard, and then ultimately fly supersonic over land, so people can go coast to coast in 3 hours or so, which has never been done before for civilians. And as part of that too, industry needs to be involved with these regulatory conversations, and we continue to be engaged at the international level through ICEA and CAPE meetings. And with NASA's work, then, and combined with industry work, we can figure out, what is an acceptable low boom noise target that is acceptable for the public, but doesn't over constrain the engineering problem, so that when we develop an airplane, it's unprofitable for airlines. And that's that iterative cycle that we need to work on together through the Vector Prime the FAA and NASA.
Open it up to the floor to anybody who wants to add some context. And again, I really want to push hard. Please click that link in chat and take a peek at the questions that we have on our board and try to add as much content as you can with a sticky.
This is Josh Berger. Can I break in for a second and put in a shameless plug? I was reading something over here from New Frontier Aerospace. As we enter in, and Lance alluded to it, so we're in the process of laying in an arrangement between Vector Prime and the Air Force Test Center that would essentially, break open this menu of resources that are available and make it transparent for the folks that need to gain access to those resources. The reality is that there's a lot of investment from the government over the past 50 years to put, or even longer, to put in wind tunnels and test ranges and computing centers and national experts in modeling and simulation that can be brought to bear if you know who to talk to and know how to get into the queue, and can bring the appropriate resources. And so where I think Lance and I are synergizing and is he understands how to get those things done, and I understand how to bring the to bridge the gap between the companies and the test center to ensure that we get into the prioritization for utilization of those resources. And so very excited to get that signed and done, and then essentially open up the directory so that everyone understands what's on the menu and how to get at it. So shameless plug for what will be our collaborative relationship between Vector Prime as the sponsor for those folks that are in the Vector Prime team, and with the Air Force Test Center and all the resources that we can bring to the table. Over.
Awesome, thank you. I see Norris with his hand up. Norris, you want to join in on the conversation here? And again, a plug to hit that Miro board and leave your insights as you're listening in. Go ahead, Norris.
Yeah, great, thank you. So I had a question for both Lieutenant Colonel Berger and Mr. Lance Baxter here. What kind of arrangement would you have between the test center and the company in terms of will there be any relaxation in the fee structure or anything like that? And I come from experience actually doing a supersonic wind tunnel test for the X-59 program. So I spent 6 weeks at NASA Glenn running from Mach 0.4 to Mach 1.14 to 1.5. And one thing I remember is that when we're running supersonic at NASA Glenn, we literally could only run at certain hours because we drew so much power from Cleveland, Ohio, that if we were to run supersonic while everyone else is powering their homes, we would draw out the power and shut down the power grid. So what that leads to is a very expensive electricity bill that usually is fronted by the customer. But in the specific case of Lockheed and NASA, I think NASA provided a pretty sweet deal and covered all the testing costs to the Lockheed Martin team. So just curious, can you talk a little bit more about what the structure would be between a company and the testing centers?
Yeah, thanks, Norris. That's a really good question. So we are a little more limited than what NASA is in terms of what we can do. There's a law out there that that established the Major Range Test Facility Base, or MRTFB, and under that legislation, we are required to recoup the direct cost of testing from a test customer, from a government-sponsored test customer, and then it changes depending on who other customers. We have different pricing, but at the minimum we have to recover that direct cost of testing. So if you use a megawatt of electricity, then you have to pay for that. If you use an hour of an engineer's time, you have to pay for their unburdened labor rate for that hour. So that does drive. There are some costs. Now, a commercial company coming into the MRTFB generally is charged at a higher rate. And so what we're working with Lieutenant Colonel Bergerrat is to establish sponsorship by his organization for these companies through this agreement that would allow you to test at DoD rates within the DoD infrastructure. Now, the other side of that is, there's been some discussions of, hey, can we get a list of facilities, or who should we call? And I really think that this is the real value here is a lot more of a white glove or concierge kind of approach, where rather than just a list of, hey, go call these people yourself, a real partnership where sitting down with you in your digital engineering process with your system engineers and identifying what is it you need to know, and how is it, what are all the different ways you could learn it, and what is the best way to do that, and then work with you to go to those places rather than just giving you a phone number and wishing you luck. So.
Sure. And do you think it's possible that NASA and the Air Force could work together with the companies to do some kind of wind tunnel arrangement?
Absolutely. Again, it wouldn't necessarily be, you're going to have to, at this point, the vision that we have and the mechanisms that we're seeing, the companies are still going to have to provide that cost. But one thing we are doing, even with some government programs right now, my office, and I think Mr. Dan Ogg is on the call, and he can talk a little bit in general about what they're doing. But we've had a number of traditional developers who've come to us and had trouble with scheduling, had trouble with models, making sure they can get a model built. Wind tunnel model building and design is a very complex and unique area. Folks who need modeling and simulation done prior to wind tunnel testing, or in-depth analysis done of testing done in multiple facilities, and working with those kinds of things can, I think, greatly accelerate and provide, especially a smaller company, access to a much larger pool of talent than they could hire. So using them only on an as-needed basis, I think represents hopefully a value to the industry, and I think that's something we'd be looking for feedback from you. Would that be valuable to you?
Yes. Short answer, certainly yes. Thank you. And I'll conclude here.